We're back again, and this is the chicken wall sculpture that we put the keyhole in, and we applied underglaze. You can see I touched up some spots, but mostly it looks kind of dry on the surface and doesn't come off my hand, and that means that it's ready for me to work on. So this is a carving tool that has a bit of like a triangle to it, and I'm going to use that to carve. It should work pretty well because the clay is about perfect. You know, it's still leather hard, but it is not soppy wet. It doesn't stick to itself. It kind of comes off almost like you're peeling like an apple, and I really like that. So I just started by kind of outlining the wings, and now I'm just going to go back in and kind of create some like feathers. And these pieces are going to fall off, and you can kind of swipe them away. And I don't want to lay it down to do this. I'm just going to hold it in my hand because if I lay it down, I could run into some troubles. I know there's sometimes people feel inclined to use their needle tool, but it makes this really thin line. It doesn't really remove any clay. And so it's better just to use the carving tools, which actually remove the clay instead of just dragging it. And if you want to go back in and do some, skinny lines, you can do that. But I don't think using that is a great idea. Another thing I like to use sometimes, just for a finer line, is the pen. Or a pencil. It just feels comfortable in my hand, but that's going to leave like some of these like little boogers. That's what I call them. And you may have to come back in with like a brush once it sets up a little, it gets a little drier, and then you can kind of get rid of some of that. So I'm just going to make these kind of feathery marks. I can even map it out that way and then come back in with my carving tool. Now, if I want to work back in, there is a round tool I kind of like too, and I could go inside of there and just hold that one spot, turn it, and that's going to make a round mark, a little dot in the center. Sometimes chicken's wings look like that. All right. For smaller little marks, and I'm just going to keep working on this here, but I'm going to switch to the breast of the chicken in a second. I'm going to bring this all the way to the side, and like I said, I'm going to have to just brush this away. Alright, now right here I can get in and make some skinnier marks. Just some little thinner sgraffito marks. And don't worry about you wiping. That black underglaze is so strong that it's really difficult for it not to show up if you use it. One thing you should know about the black underglaze though, if you try to put white or a light color on top, most times the black will bleed right through that once you have glaze on it, and it will disappear. So you do want to be careful with that. So this is where it's going right now. I can come back in and I create the beak. And if I took too much pigment away here, I can come back in with a finer brush and work into that. I kind of like it with a little bit more clay showing, but if something like that happens, you can work back in afterwards. So if you lose too much, if you get a little heavy-handed with a carving tool, don't be afraid to work back into that. And you will be able to get some of that pigment back. So I'm going to keep working around the other side and the top of it and continue on carving through the underglaze back down to the clay. And then when it dries a little bit more, I'll take a stiff, clean brush and brush those particles away. I really like the variation of the different lines. The lines of the wings compared to the rest. I don't think that the line of carving is that different than a drawn line in drawing, the Sgraffito line. It's just that instead of adding a drawn line, you're really taking away. It's a subtractive process. And if you go too far, you can always add more pigment and then carve again. Looks like I'll have to add a little more red right there. But otherwise it looks pretty good. Just like that. With the keyhole in the back.